Buddy, welcome back to the shop. Today we're going to be doing a review on the Ford Lightning Flash. It's been about 7 months, so we're going to go over the pros and the cons of owning one of these. So here it is. This front piece is an added deflector. It does help big time with the bugs, I will say that. But here it is in the all black color. So first we'll start with the pros of this truck. I mean, the very first thing is drivability. It's super smooth. It's got plenty of power for a pickup truck. It is super quiet, and the power, because it's immediate, it's super predictable. You know, with it being all-wheel drive and you hitting that gas, or not gas, but you're hitting the pedal, it does exactly what you expect it to do every time. There's no I'm in the wrong gear or it's lugging or nothing. It just goes. And until you experience that on a regular basis, a lot of people will not understand the difference between that because there's just no waiting. Now, a lot of people don't like it at first until maybe they get used to it, but the one pedal driving, it's like, to me, I don't even like turning it off anymore because I think I'm using the brakes more. But actually, on these trucks, if you do not use the one pedal driving, it still regen brakes when you hit the brake, almost the same, just a little bit less than it does with the regen on. But the fact that you could just drive the truck by just letting off the accelerator and letting it slow down with regen braking, and it actually stops completely. Once you get used to it, you'll be just lightly letting off the accelerator, and it will slow down a little bit as if you're hitting the brake, but you're not actually touching the brake pedal, but it works the same. Also found that the one pedal driving makes it easier to back in the garage because my truck just barely fits by a few inches on the front side and the back side once it's in. And I could just tap the accelerator a little bit at a time, and as soon as I let off, the truck stops and holds. And I found that it makes it a lot easier to back the truck in without, like, having to 2 foot drive in here because it's, a tight spot. Now, you wouldn't really have to do this, obviously, if it wasn't a tight garage, but it comes in handy for that. In heavy traffic, if you got to get to another lane or get to the other side or merge, or they won't let you in or something like that, this thing is like a master for its size to get into a gap. Like, if you're trying to get over and the second there's a gap, or even if there isn't one, as soon as the car just moves a little bit, you hit it, you get in that spot like right now. So there is an advantage to that instant power, especially when the other drivers are really not expecting something that size to move that quickly. And another perk to this truck, looking almost just like a regular 150, is nobody knows what it is and don't expect anything extravagant or as far as acceleration to come out of something like this, so you kind of like take them by surprise. As far as the truck's concerned, for me, and I do some decent stuff with trucks, it has done everything I've needed it to do. Now, I don't go on super far trips, and when I mean super far trips, I mean going beyond 200 miles from my house. I mean, that just doesn't happen very often for me, and if it did, I guess I would have to take the hit as far as charging remotely. But as of now, I have never had to do that. But as far as moving anything I needed to move or doing any of the work around the yard, I live on a 3-acre property, and I've used it to do stuff with the cutting down weeds or excess growth, whatever it is, throw in the bed of the truck. It's very convenient to drive around. You got the radio going, everything like that. It just seems, super nice. The trim level. It being a Flash, you're between an XLT and a Lariat, and I think they pretty much hit it with what you need in a truck, or what you would want in a truck, a little bit over, like, say, more of a base truck, but not have some of the things you don't even really care about. Like, I'm not a big leather interior person, so the fact that it comes with cloth seats, I probably would have put seat covers on it anyway, so that part doesn't matter. The rear seats are not heated or cooled, but I rarely have passengers in the back. It's missing the rear tailgate light, which I ended up putting one between the bumper and the tailgate, and I kind of like that better because it actually functions better because it splits half and half with turn signals. You got one whole side. I mean, so there's nobody gonna not know that you're turning in one direction or the other. But besides that, that also has a giant reverse light. So I get a lot more illumination when I back up because that bar turns white in reverse. That being said, like the flash trim, I think is perfect. You know, like had it had that light bar on the tailgate, I probably I would not have gotten one for the bottom. But I actually, like I said, I'm glad it actually happened that way. So, but I have to say, I don't think I'm missing anything. Well, that'll go in the cons list because I think it should be included on this. But um, that's that. So if you see any of my other videos, you see that I also have another set of wheels and tires for this truck that I use fall through winter, or I didn't have it last fall, but that's what it's going to be. Um, I have KO3 tires on it. 33s are pretty much the same size as the tires that are stock, except they're on 18-inch Lightning Pro or XLT wheels. I like the extra sidewall, and it does lose a little bit of range with those, but it's not all that bad because the combination of the range loss is also winter and colder weather. So between both of those, it's really not that bad of a drop from summer. So, you know, um, I don't do any towing or anything in the winter, so that's not a problem. What I don't have is the actual winter range, but I know about what it was. We're talking, I think, for the most part, the average was about 1.6 or 1.7. I, I don't have it exactly, but that's about where it's at. Um, my summer range has been 2.2, and that's with, it's got a 2-inch leveling or 1.6-inch leveling. Um, and the front hitch on there, the front air dam is gone because of it. So there's a couple little things that might take away from why it's not more than that. But remember, that's the average. If I want to squeeze more out of it, I can get up to 2.5 or whatever, but I have to try to get that. And the 2.5 will put you at the rated range, which is over 300 miles. But I'm more than satisfied with the 275 that it gets pretty much in that area. The total combined, we're talking about from winter and summer mixed, it had about equal amount of weather in both directions, you know, with the cold and the heat. We're at 1.9. So I would say for the whole year, your yearly average is going to be about 1.9. But, you know, that really doesn't matter about the average because it's either going to be summer or it's going to be winter. It's not like that average is going to help you because you're not going to count on 1.9 in the winter unless you're really trying to. And that would be like reducing, you know, it would be higher if you didn't have the tires, I would imagine. But I wish I could just run them all year, or I wanted to, because they just look so much better. But for my towing purposes, that's why I put the stock wheel and tires on it, the setup, instead of the KO3s. One of my fears was towing the boat. I wasn't sure what it was going to get. I wasn't really thinking it was going to hurt it, but I finally did that on another video, and my round trip is 150 miles to where I go, and it did that and came back, and we were at 40% range left when I got back. So that is never going to be a problem, and so that means I could turn the speed up even to drive there. I wasn't even driving that slow, but now I'm really just not going to worry about it at all because it totally can make it there and back, because 40% of battery, that's a lot to make up for other things that you might do on that trip there and back. But I wasn't trying to be a super economizer in either sense, going either way. Now, depending on your job or whatever your circumstances, charging for me is free. My work provides free charging, and my work has many locations, reporting offices that I go to, and every one of them has a charger there. So like for me, if I go to work, it doesn't matter where it's at. The farthest place from my work is not the range of this truck. You know, it doesn't go beyond it. So when I get there, I plug in and get everything back, you know, and then some if I want to put a little bit more in. And then if you are at a farther distance, just charge it up to 100%. And that just gives you that much extra to get back, whatever. But I can do a lot of traveling for my work and not have to pay for it. And have job sites that has plenty of power on tap. So even if it's not a building, I have a cable that has been made that can just be tapped in, to a breaker, and I can get power that way. So, if I wouldn't do that for a 1 day thing, but if I'm at a job site for, a week or something, I'm probably going to hook that up so that I don't have to charge it at my house. The only time I have to charge it at my house is if I'm on vacation because I'm not going to work. So any of my personal driving I have to do while I'm off work, I'm obviously going to be paying for that, but that would be normal for anybody. Um, but a lot of times on my weekends, I charge it up on Friday or Saturday and I'm off the whole weekend. Pretty much my charge from work covers my 2 days that I have off, 2 to 3 days that I have off on the weekend until I go back, and then I just charge it back up again. So if you have that situation where you can do that, that will definitely save you a lot of money. Range on your dash. This thing is way more accurate than any Tesla could ever dream to be, because in a Tesla, and I don't know about other vehicles because I've only owned Fords. Well, I did own a GM one too, the Volt, but I don't really count it because you had the backup with gas, so you never really looked at it that hard. But um, it gives you realistic range. It does the average of how you drive, and it's going to give you a prediction of what you're going to get. I mean, it's very accurate. If it says 250 miles, you're going to get it. The Tesla, every time you charge it up, it shows you max range that it's rated for from the manufacturers. And then as soon as you start driving it, you see 3 miles at a time dropping off until it starts to level off. But, it's just, I don't know why theirs doesn't do that. It does not go by your previous driving like this does. If I was to reset all of the driving, it's been recording, it would start back over to factory, but I just leave it go. Charging speed at home, if you can, like I do have a 48 amp charger if I do need to charge it here, which gives me between 22 to 24 miles per hour added to the truck. It's a decent pace. Most driving, if you do whatever and you come home and like you got to run somewhere, you say you plug it in when you got home. I mean, I don't know, unless you're completely empty when you get back, I think recovering, 22 to 24 miles every hour is more than enough to cover some kind of circumstance that you might have to run out again. Unless you come back and it's completely dead and you got to leave immediately. But that situation has never happened to me. I think the lowest this truck's ever come back to the house is 30%, which, at that point, if you need the range, you could just drive accordingly, and that will get you, I don't know, like 60 miles. One more pro of this truck, which there might be others, but these are the main ones I thought of. Compared to a Tesla, this does not have much battery drain when it sits. Like, I haven't really noticed it ever draining down. Like my Tesla Plaid and the Model S Performance, if it sat overnight not plugged in, you were easily losing 1% or 2% overnight, almost every time. So, and that would be turning everything off too, like the cameras and all that. So I don't know why there's that difference, but this does not seem to have that problem. I've had it sit a day or two without driving it, and the percentage is the same as when I turn it off. Now we'll go with the cons of this thing. In 24, they removed the 80 amp charging capability of the truck, which means you can only charge at 48 amps, which is what I said. It seems to be enough, but I would think 80 would be better, because if you could do 80 amps at your house, you're looking at 40 miles every hour return, or up to 40 to 45 miles every hour, which would cut your charge time if you were completely empty to like 6 hours, something like that. But forget the 6 hours. Let's say you just came home, you plugged it in, and then you had to run somewhere an hour later. You got 40 miles put back in the thing. So, and you're not coming back empty anyway, so that should be enough to cover what you need to do. And I suppose worst case scenario, you would have to go charge at a charging station if you needed more than that. But that's why I'm putting it on the negative side. Another con is the computer system. It's a little, I'm not going to call it laggy, but like, let's just say if you're listening to music and it might just be when you're using your phone. I don't know. Maybe when the radio's on, it doesn't do it. But if you change screens on there, like the music will cut off for a split second, come back on, like it's interrupting it. It's not a huge thing, but I'm just saying it does it. And like the Tesla was seamless, and the Tesla gives you so much more information. The this will tell you where chargers are and stuff, but the Tesla compared to this, not even close. They need to get up on that, and I don't think since they're not just an EV company that they're going to work really hard on getting there, but that's one thing I wish they would improve on. Actually, the Google Maps has a thing where you can check for charging stations and put it on your route. But you got to build it instead of just typing in two addresses, hit the button, and it tells you all your options, where you can charge, how long. I don't see anything with Ford doing that right now, and I wish they did. But it's not just that. There's other information if you're like numbers and you're like nerdy and want to see all that. The Tesla has way more data, like their apps, their side apps. You can get other apps other than Tesla, and it gives you like more information than you probably even would care to know. But if you want to know it, it's there. All right, the next con is its handling at highway speeds. I recently was just job site reporting to a place that was about an hour away, and you had to go on the highway, and everybody's driving, 70, 80 miles an hour. And until then, yeah, I've done it, but it was like not in rush hour traffic. So I wasn't like changing lanes or speeding up or whatever to get around something. I noticed that this thing was kind of felt like a boat because I'm sure because of its weight, but its suspension is completely not set up for higher speed handling at all. Like just doing 80 and you're going around a curve on a highway, it just felt like it wanted to push you in, to either the next lane over or on the shoulder. I'm not saying it was going to do it, but it gave you that sensation that it was going to. So what I did to alleviate that problem is I have another video showing me putting on a Hellwig extra thick, solid chromoly heavy duty sway bar with some thick end links on it. I think it's called Mevotech or whatever. They're extremely thicker than the stock ones, and from then that fixed that problem. But what I'm bringing it up as a con because it comes soft. I also did add Ebach leveling struts, which moves the springs together tighter to give you a little of the lift that you want, which you can select, which groove you put the lock ring in. What it does is it compresses the spring more, and the more compression on the spring is what actually lifts your truck up. So there's no spacers involved. But the dampening of those struts are stiffer. So between, when you first get it, you're going to notice it feels like you're on clouds. But then I noticed on the highway, the turns, it felt good on bumps and stuff, but like turning it felt, weeble wobbly. So struts and the sway bar and end links completely fixed that highway feeling of like it wasn't that stable. So that's been fixed by those things, but you're going to need that if you feel that way when it turns like I did. Another con, it does not have phone as a key, which I think they should have just put that in on this model, but they didn't. That setup works better. My wife's Mach-E has it. I will do a review on that one too, because that's been a year since we've owned that thing, no problems. But having the phone as a key gives you an option to start the truck with nothing. Like you got your passcode that you type in on the door that opens the door, then you get in, so you got no key. You can go and do another passcode and it'll start the vehicle. And so you can literally have nothing, no phone, no keys, nothing, and start your vehicle and drive it in some kind of emergency. So the fact that you can't do it with this, that part kind of sucks. I think this trim level should have it, but because it does notice. Well, I think that goes by the key fob. Yeah, it does go by the key fob. When you walk up to the truck, all the lights come on because you have that, but not because of the phone. All right, another con is they took it away on the 24s. So the 24s does not have the fake charging port door on the passenger side. It has just the regular charging port door on the driver's side, which that's fine, but it looks like they had the space. It would be nice if they put a charging port on both sides so that you have an option of what side to plug it in on, because a lot of chargers, I either have to depending on which one's being used, I have to pull it in straight or I have to back it in. And sometimes it's just not going to reach unless you have the truck turned a certain way. So it would be nice if there was one on each side, but that's probably a big hassle, and I know they'll never do it. But they had the fake door. It was like, hey, why not just put the charging port there? All right, another con. This thing is a truck, so just like a gas truck would do, it uses about double the amount of electric than what a electric car would use. Just like a truck would use more gas than a gas car. Um, so with that being said, when you're filling it back up, you're going to want at minimum 30 amps to charge it. I mean, you could do it with less, I guess, if you're not in a hurry, but even if you're not in a hurry, who wants it to be sitting on a charger forever? So, like, I have the 48 amp set up here. Like I said, I don't have to use it much, but that is the only thing I want to use. Like, unless I got all weekend and I'm not going to drive it and I want to charge it up, I got a backup one that I have it plugged into all the time in the garage. That's 16 amps, but that's like, I don't know, 8 miles every hour or something like that, or 7. It might even be 6. I don't know. But if you only have access to 110, just forget it. You're going to take days to charge it because you need, you're getting 2 point whatever kilowatts, miles per kilowatt. You know, you got to fill up 130 some kilowatts, and you got a 1.3 kilowatt charger. It's just going to take forever. Like, we'll just say 100 hours, right? 100 hours versus like 8 compared to 48 amps to, I want to say the 110. I don't know what the amps is on that, but it's not, I think it's 12. So yeah, and it's a 110. So if you got 110, I do not recommend any EV actually. If you can only do 110, I wouldn't even do it, any of them. Now, I know I said earlier that I had no problem towing, which I don't, because I know for me, I bought this truck because it fits everything for me. When I go with the boat, I always go to pretty much the same place or closer. That works for me. But if you have a car hauler or whatever, I'm gonna say between 100 and 150 miles is gonna be your like max distance you could travel away, but you would still need to charge it to come back. Now, with that being said, from 50 to 75 miles away from your house is all you're gonna get before you could have to come back to your house to charge it back up. So, if you're, that's with we're talking like 24-foot car hauler or whatever, which would be comparable to like some kind of a camper or something like that. Boats tend to do better because they're kind of aerodynamic. They're not as heavy, especially mine is not that bad. So if you got to tow with it often, like if you're going to do it once in a while, I say the convenience of not having to go to the gas station all the time, that adds up. It actually adds up. So if you count all the times that you go to a gas station in a gasser and then you go on a trip, you still got to get gas, and even on that trip, it's just not waiting as long, but you still have to do it. Now, with EV, you're going to have to stop and charge, and you're going to have to wait longer, to charge it up instead of getting gasoline. But throughout the rest of the year, if you are like me, where you don't have to charge anywhere but work or home, I'm never waiting. I get to work. I work anywhere from 8 to 12 hours a day. By the time the day's over, the truck's full, no matter how far I drove it the day before. So I'm never like waiting. So I get to work, I go walk up to the thing, I grab the thing, put it in, and I walk in, and then I come back at the end of the day and unplug it. So I'm not waiting for anything. But so don't mind waiting to charge it if I was to go on a trip that required me to charge it up. But for most people, I'm calling it a con because people just don't like to wait. The people that are against them, I guess. But with that being said, nobody thinks about this. So you have a comparable truck to this, and you get gasoline in it, and you're going to put $100 of gas in there versus like charging it up for free in my case. So for me, you just spent $100 in gas. So how much do you make an hour? $50 an hour maybe? That's 2 hours that you stayed at work to pay for the gas that you just put in there, where I'm not doing nothing. Depending on what people make versus, you know, how much gas they're putting in, all those numbers vary. I get it. But no matter what, you're waiting somewhere. You're either waiting to make money to pay for the gas or you're waiting to charge it somewhere. Now, I'm saying that for me, it's free for most of the year, other than like, say, I went on a trip, I would have to charge the truck up while I'm out. And I think the price is comparable to gas. It's not. I don't think it's much cheaper to charge the truck than it is to put gas in when you're not at home. So there is that. But for me, I'm only doing that when I'm on a trip, not all the time. Where people talk about they went to the gas station and only spent 5 minutes. Well, how many times you go to the gas station? And how many times you're there for 5 minutes? And how much did it cost you? When, for me, it literally maybe 20 seconds total to get out of the truck, plug it in, and walk in. And then at the end of the day, that's probably 10 seconds, and the other 10 is unplugging it. And it costs me zero compared to someone paying $100 and spending 5 minutes X amount of times a year. So there's that to consider. So as far as the pros and cons list go with this truck, that's where I'm at with it. I did try to think of what other people might think about and incorporate that into what I'm saying. But it does everything I think, in the end, it does everything I think a truck needs to do, except if you're on a trip. Because, yes, if you're on a trip, it's going to take you longer to charge it. If you're going a very far distance, that's just what it's going to be. So, but if you don't go on trips every week, I think that if you look at time savings, it either evens out, or I think you're spending less time charging on a trip than you would be for every day compared to refueling gasoline. If you're going cross country, towing a big camper or whatever, I don't think I would want to use this. I mean, what I'm saying is it could do it. I don't think I'd want to do it, but it doesn't really matter because I don't do it. But so if I did end up doing that, I would probably get something else or rent something for that trip specifically and not put any miles on my personal vehicle. All this information might help you decide whether or not this might be for you or not. But like I said, it depends on your setup. Like, I have a great job that is willing to charge their employees' vehicles free. And sure, anyone can say, well, that's now, but maybe they'll charge you later. Maybe they will, but for now, I'm going to take advantage of it. And that's what the case is right now. But it's just not going to work for everybody. It just isn't, you know. So I'm just saying, if it works for you, I think there's more pros by far than there is cons to this truck. And the fact that it just does look like 95% of it looks just like a regular F-150 is great. Because I have to say, I go to a lot of places, you know, as far as like a store or a restaurant, anything, and if someone sees it and they might ask me what motor is in it or whatever, because maybe they didn't hear me pull up or whatever, or the AC's on. When the AC's on, it almost sounds like there's something running under the hood. People don't even know it's an EV, and that's the best part about this truck of almost all the other ones, is this looks like a gas truck pretty much, and most people don't even notice it. So that is a good thing about it, because if you have any haters on it, they won't even notice it and leave your shit alone, you know. But anyway, please hit that like and subscribe button. There is more to come, and we will catch you on the next one.